You may be knowingly deceiving yourself because if you are saying, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am abundant, and yet on the inside, that's not what you're feeling, you know something's not right. So, in this video, I am showing you how you might be doing that and the three keys for actually how to transform identity, which is how we create everything. First key needs this information, which is what is identity? What is being? And the model I use, I'm going to get visual with you. Ready? The model I use for this is the river of causality. The river of causality. Causality might sound like a weird word. Causality, how things are caused, how we cause them to come about. In New Age circles, that's often manifestation. Call it creation. There's a science to it. It's not a mystery. And here's the thing. What do you want? Like, what prompted you to be here right now? You want more money, a better relationship, to feel better in your body? Everybody wants something. Contrary to some beliefs, desire is healthy, natural, good. Yes, everybody wants results. So, quiz, test, what is right before results? What has to come just before you have results? Results are preceded by, correct, action. There must be some action in order to get that result. Okay, cool. And this is one of the biggest keys to the river of causalities because action, and a lot of us who are achievers, entrepreneurs, into personal, spiritual, professional development, we're taking action. We know we went to Tony Robbins, massive action. It's true. It's required. It's a precedent. It must be there before the result. However, some actions work, some actions don't work, right? What's the quality of the action? Where does the action come from? Do we act? Do we not act? If we do act, is it effective? So then, because we are wise, we say, well, okay, what up this river of causality, because we're going to the source, results preceded by action. What precedes results? What's before results? Well, thoughts, feelings, speech, that's all mixed into one beautiful ball. Thoughts, action, speech determines our action. Give you an example. My friend Brian, single guy, he's walking down the street. He's heterosexual. He would like to be in a relationship. He sees a woman over there to whom he's attracted. Now, does he act? Does he not act? And more importantly, what determines that? Right? What determines whether he acts? It's our thoughts and feelings. If his thought is, oh, she wouldn't like me, he's probably just going to keep walking over that way. If his thought is, hey, I'm attracted to her, we could be a fit. Maybe I'll go over there, and he's probably going to act. Caveat, important piece here. What if he knows he has to act and he's going to push through whatever the thought is? The thought saying, no, he's not going to like me. If he pushes through, ineffective action, right? That's where he goes up and he says, hi, you wouldn't want to go out with me, would you? Right. And we've all done our variation of that. All of it, the acting, not acting, the acting in a way that's not effective. So results preceded by action, preceded by thoughts, feelings. What determines our thoughts and feelings? Where do they come from? That, my friends, is the key, the top, the source, and that is who we are being. Being, right? Identity. Right? We never get an apple growing from an orange tree. Who we are being, right? And who am I being? I might be kind. I might be loving. I might be selfish. I might be impatient. I might be like, I can be all those things in any moment. Being is always in the present moment. And here's massive revelation. There are three keys to being. One, it's inescapable. We are always being. Can't help it. We're being. That's life. Two, we can observe who we are being, how we are being, who is more powerful. We can observe that. As far as I know, we're the only animal that can do that. We can pause and go, who am I being right now? Oh, I'm being scared. That's who I'm being confident. We can pause and notice that. Right. And that leads, and not many people are doing that. So the third part of being so cool. We can change who we are being. I'll give you an example of this in a moment. Now, so river of causality, results preceded by action, preceded by thoughts and feelings, preceded by being. And this is the key to all of this, really, is knowing that our highest leverage, the most important attention we pay is to who we are being, which could lead to some of the confusion here because I am statements get to what? What's an I am statement? It's a statement of being. So we say I am in order to create being. Yes, and it's not at that simple. It's just not quite as simple as that. So being is our highest leverage. Our attention on that is what creates everything else. And again, come back down here to action. We can do all the actions in the world, keep acting. We can go to watch the sunrise at the ocean, which is 2 blocks that way, facing west, and I'm not going to see the sunrise. Doesn't matter how many times I act at 6 a.m., that's sunrise. So up here, being, right? Being creates everything. Okay, now that leads us, since you know that, leads us to the first key. And the first key is design. I have a new title for it. Design and define your supreme self. Design and define your supreme self. Supreme self, that's the term I use for you at your absolute best. Who you are, free of fear, conditioning, doubt, worry, selfishness. And we all have those things, right? We all have access to those things. We can all be those things in any given moment. And if we are free from those, who are you? You are your supreme self, confident, loving, powerful, beautiful, loving yourself such that you love everyone else. That's your supreme self. So, key number one, design and define your supreme self. How much time do people put into figuring out what they're going to watch at night? And especially, God forbid, if there's 3 or more people, I want to watch this, I want to watch this, I want to watch this. An hour later, you know how it goes. How much time do you invest in defining and designing your supreme self? Who you are at your best, the you that creates everything that you want in your life. Most people don't invest time in that. What we're going to eat for dinner, what we're going to watch. So, key number one is feel into, think about, imagine. Why did Albert Einstein say that imagination is more important than knowledge? exactly this. All right. And again, that's one of these unique capacities that we have. We can imagine. It's one of our highest capacities. Imagine, who would you love to be? What would you love to do? What would you love to have? Be, do, have. That's how it works. That's another frame on what I'm sharing with you here. Who would you love to be? So the first step, design and define, means think about it, feel into it, write it down. Now, I've done this many times in my life, and I'll tell you this. I've done it deeply, put a lot of energy into it, intuitively knowing this, yet I also missed keys 2 and 3, which we're getting to in a moment. So here's the way it goes. Make it actionable for you, define. 1, imagine. 2, write it down. 3, look at it again. Revise it. Keep looking at it. Okay, that leads us into the second key. The second key for true transformation of identity and creation in the material world is give the mouse the mic. Give the mouse the mic. Is he speaking English? Yes. Give the mouse a mic. Why I title it that is because as I was speaking with clients over the last years, it came to me that what happens when we are in our self-creation laboratory, when we're in our practice, our sadhana, we know this first design and design part. Okay, I am in it. I'm doing it. I'm creating in the world. I'm speaking my affirmations. By the way, why is it that affirmations don't work? Well, it's in this key. Because I am strong, I am beautiful, I am abundant. We can speak those things, and then if we pause and listen, what goes on inside the body, inside the mind, in the psyche is often, usually, a little voice. A little voice that's so small, it's like a mouse in the corner of the room. And it's going, nah, you are not. Look at you. You're overweight. You can barely pay your rent. You're not that. You're not that. That's the mouse voice. And it's over there in the corner, and it's just speaking this little thing. And what do we do? What have we been trained to do? We take off our shoe and we throw it at the mouse. Go, get out of here. We set a mouse trap. We get a cat. Because we don't like mice. We don't like mice that speak. However, this is the second key for a reason, because the mouse is important. It's key. So here's what I developed. When I hear the mouse voice, I say, hey, you're important. Come over here. I want to hear what you have to say. And right on my desk or my altar or wherever I am, I've got a little stage, a little tiny stage. And on that stage is a little microphone. And I say, dude, come over here. I got a spot for you. And he comes right up and he stands up there on the stage, and he looks at the mic and he takes it with both little paws and he says, you suck. Dude, you're a loser. You're lazy. You're never going to amount to anything. And you know what I don't do? I don't argue with him. I don't fight him. I don't tell him he's wrong. I say, thank you. What else? Thank you. What else? Because here's the thing. We can say the affirmation. We can create beautiful, poetic affirmations about who we really are at our best, our supreme self. And if meanwhile there's a little mouse voice going on all the time, and by the way, to make it super clear, this is the externalized animism version of a voice that goes on inside of us. Part of us says, no, I'm not that. And here, this is why affirmations can be so destructive and why I'm so passionate about sharing this, because I've suffered from it plenty myself too. We say this thing, and then the little mouse voice goes, nah, you're not that. And then what can we unavoidably conclude? Let me say it another way. What must we conclude? One, it's not true, right? We know it. If we're smart enough to create the affirmation, we're smart enough to know that we don't have it. It's not there yet. Two, what's the next conclusion? I'm a liar. I said this thing and it's not true. And that's usually as far as it goes. However, if we listen to the mouse, he has something to teach us. She has something to teach us. And that is, there's a part of us that is mean to ourselves, self-punishing, self-hating, judgmental, negative judgments of self. If you've ever experienced this, put a hand up. If you haven't put a hand up, start telling the truth, because that's the only thing that will set you free. We've all done it. Okay, here's an example. Shortly after my first big awakening to spirit, I was living at Omega Institute in upstate New York, New Age summer camp for adults, holistic learning center, such a great place. I had opened up to this whole new world of personal development, spirituality, manifestation, the new agey stuff, and I had learned about Byron Katie. Byron Katie, one of the greatest luminaries of our time, amazing author, being, teacher. And I had this great job when I was at Omega, which was I was I forget what we called it, faculty liaison, which meant that I got to go and help the faculty get all set up. And you need pens for your course, and you need this, and welcome, and drive around a little golf court. It was super fun. So I went over there to where Byron Katie was teaching, and I had a bit of a what you could call a Shakti crush. And I said to Katie, Katie, how are you? It was awesome because she looked at me and said, I'm happy. No, what I said to her was, Katie, how are you? How's it going for you here? And she just looked at me and said, I'm happy wherever I am. I was like, oh, yeah, right. You're Byron Katie. Okay. Next step. I got to take her workshop. This is how it goes in her workshop. She says, who would like to do the work? I was like, me, I would. The work means going up on stage and having a conversation with her where we inquire into self-judgment, right? Sometimes self-judgment is externalized as judgment toward other. Most often, it's easier to see that way, right? It's like bad breath. Hard to notice on ourselves, but easy to sense in others. So I'm on stage with Katie, and I spoke to her about my judgment of myself as being fat. Now, mind you, at this point in my life, 1997, I wasn't actually fat. I had been when I was a kid, or at least quite pudgy, but to the point that I suffered from it. I had what do you call body dysmorphia, right? Saw myself as fat, thought myself as fat, couldn't stop myself from eating, obsessed, so much energy lost to that. However, by 1997, I'd forced myself action, right? The action before the result. The result was I was in a fit body at that point. And the actions were I beat myself into that because I still thought I was fat. When I looked in the mirror, I thought I was fat. So I had a conversation with Katie, and she helped me to see my self-judgment. However, and through no fault of her own, my own capacity at that point was to here. That was as far as it could go. As in, I understood in my head what she was talking about. I got it. I got it in my head. However, it didn't come down to my heart and into my body. So, even though I was in a fit body, I still lived as fat. When did this change? A few years ago, when I really learned this concept on a deeper level. And I learned it through my mentor, Steve Hardison. And his expression for this phenomena is if you say the affirmations, declarations, incantations, whatever, if you say, I am, and the thing that you really would love to be, yet underneath is the self judgment. I'm weak, I'm lazy, I'm a loser. These are some of my old favorites, which still come up, of course, sometimes. That is putting frosting on poop. Right? That's painting pink on rust. Doesn't work, right? What's underneath? And if we go back to the river of causality, being is the spring, the source. Never does pure water flow from a bitter or poisoned spring. So, key number 2, give the mouse the mic and do the work, do the healing. Give yourself the forgiveness. Right? Steve learned this language, compassionate self-forgiveness, from his study years before. Compassionate self-forgiveness. That's where we do this very dangerous, horrible, challenging thing, which is we actually pay attention to the judgments, the mean things we think and say about ourselves. And holy moly, y'all, if you haven't done this and then you do it, it is confronting because there's a lot more of it than we realize. And this only applies to you if you're human or part human. Okay, so how this played out for me is I got aware of this. I was like, okay, I'm in. I get it, right? I see why I only got so far with Katie back then. So I'm going to really do it. I took an inventory. So for some period of time, some weeks, I was like, okay, I'm just going to really pay attention to everything mean that I think and say about myself. One morning, get out of bed, walk into the bathroom, do the usual things, one of which was to stand on a scale. And at this point, I didn't feel myself as fat, but that was still a positive ritual for me to notice, or so I thought. Because I stand on the scale, I'm still a little groggy. I look down at it, digital scale, which means right when I step on it, the infinity sign is going like this. The actual number hasn't come up yet. And in that moment, it hits me. I realize suddenly, no matter what comes, it's going to be bad. As in, the number is going to be too high, more likely. The number is going to be too high, which means I'm fat. I'm still fat after all this yoga. Or it's going to be too low. What does that mean? That means I'm not a man. I'm not strong enough. Right? I haven't been working out enough. It's too low. Right? There's no right number. I was going to lose either way. What does that mean? I was judging myself, judging my body, beating myself. Self-flagellation seems small. Maybe, I don't know how it seems to you. For most people, that sounds like a small thing, yet it's huge. It's a huge thing because no matter how much I said I am fit, I am attractive, nah. So the work then is to one, inventory, notice the thoughts, the statements, write them down, and then do a practice that we call compassionate self-forgiveness, which means I feel it, I acknowledge it, I let it go. There's more nuance to it. That's the core of it. I feel it. And I speak these words. I forgive myself for judging myself as fat, lazy, weak, a loser. These are all things I've judged myself as. And, I've done this so many times, my hand just goes reflexively to my heart because that helps me to feel, just like closing my eyes, breathing helps me to feel in my body, in my heart. One, the pain that I was inflicting on myself, and two, the release of it. Because, I can forgive myself because the truth is I'm innocent. I didn't know. These negative self-thoughts, these judgments, they're conditioned. We wouldn't do this to ourselves if we realized it. We inherited it from people that inherited it, from people that inherited it. So we're undoing the spell of self-judgment. That's compassionate self-forgiveness. Give the mouse the mic, and I love you, and I'm honest. So the truth is, you could do number one and number two, these keys, employ them in your life really well and not get into number three, and it probably won't create the results you want. Because, looking at my notes, principle number three, your supreme self sacrament. Sacrament. Okay, so let's rewind a bit. Number one, design and define your supreme self. I call that write your manifesto, your supreme self manifesto. And what is a manifesto? What is a vision statement? Well, if you've worked at a corporation, you probably know it as something that the chairman wrote up and gave to everybody and said memorize, and it's maybe on the wall or in a drawer. So another way of saying sacrament, something sacred that you do, an activity, a practice, something sacred. And what, I ask you, could be more sacred than activating and cultivating your supreme self? We need that from you. We want that from you. That is your destiny, your duty. Your destiny and your duty is to define and design your supreme self, to write it in a manifesto, to give the mouse the mic, heal the heart, and create the sacrament that activates and cultivates that supreme self out in the world. What do these words mean? It means, as my friend Quanta said once, marathon runner, I was like, man, how do you run that far? He looked at me like I was silly. He said, Daniel, you got to do the miles, which means we get there through practice, through repetition. Practice and repetition. Now, some of you are ahead and you're thinking, well, hold on. What does that mean? Okay, you got the Supreme Self Sacrament, this set of declarations, I am statements, and you speak them, but they're lies. I'm so confused. Well, good. Confusion precedes breakthrough. So let's make it clear. I am wonderful. I am amazing. I am perfect patience. Whatever is your declaration, you speak it repeatedly, daily, multiple times a day. And when you speak it, you feel it. Or that's the practice. In other words, I speak in order to feel. I speak in order to feel. I'll give you an example for me. I am king. Do you see a crown? Well, maybe something like a crown, a glow, a chrome. In any case, I speak, I am king, not necessarily because I am or I'm crowned or because I feel myself as a king. I speak in order to create myself into it. Right? And this is the key to activation and cultivation. We speak the I am statements, declarations, incantations. We speak them doing our best to feel that. And most often, When I speak my declarations, my Supreme Self Manifesto, when I speak that in the morning, no matter how I woke up, what I felt when I woke up, when I speak it, I feel it. I feel alive in it. Now, sometimes not, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. And sometimes I speak it and I feel alive in it, and then I run into a challenging situation in life and I collapse and I don't feel like that because I'm part human too. Right? So, activation and cultivation means this: I speak it and then I listen and I feel. And maybe I speak, I am king. And I say, yeah, you know what? Yesterday, I was a blessing to this person, and this person. And that's a kingly thing. And I was like, yeah. So my listening yields evidence that says, I am king. Or on the flip side, maybe I say, I am king. And then I listen and I go, yeah, yesterday I was in traffic and I was really impatient and honking my. That's not a king behavior. Huh. Okay. And here's what happens: friction. So either I speak it and say, yeah, I am that, and I collect evidence that supports it, strengthens it, or I speak it and I notice where I wasn't living it. Now, that could, fine line here, that could become self judgment, self punishment. That's why compassionate self forgiveness is so important. That's why cultivating self love is so important. So I can go, oh, yeah, man, I didn't rock that one yesterday. Okay, cool. Now I'm more aware of it. Maybe I'll speak it again. Maybe I'll speak it 3 times. Maybe I'll speak it, write it. Maybe I'll speak it every hour through the day to remind myself that that's who I am. That's my supreme self. That's how I will live. And I just keep doing that activation and cultivation daily. You've seen advertising for a brick and mortar store via a inflatable balloon thing. I don't know what they're actually called. If you know, please let me know. An inflatable balloon thing is like a hot dog or a mascot or something. I don't know. And it's got, they blow helium into it and it goes, and it takes a shape and then it goes, collapses again. And this, y'all, is what Supreme Self Manifesto activation and cultivation is. I speak it, and then as I speak it, my Supreme Self comes alive. I'll give you one last example story on this. Some years ago, I spoke in the morning. One of my declarations, I don't speak it anymore, so let me bring it back. Because it evolves, by the way, right? Our declarations will evolve as we evolve. And my declaration was, I am prodigious patience. There was more to it. I'm unconditional love and prodigious patience. Now, ask anybody in my life then or now. I'm not always prodigious patience or unconditional love. I'm part human. I mess up with those things sometimes. I'm going there though. So, several years ago, my daughter, age 15 and then into 16, was so excited to get her driver's license. You remember that? Have you done that? Do you live in New York City and don't need it? Okay. For some reason, it was a real challenge. I mean, in Hawaii, where we were living at the time, I think it's especially challenging. And our process, for whatever reason, was challenging. It was like, took her months to get the driver's ed course. There was a big waiting list, and then finally we're like ready for it, and went through all the nerve wracking stuff where she was the student driver and I was, she only hit one palm tree, and it was gentle, and my car was already scratched. So no big deal. Then the week of the exam, we've got an appointment at DMV, and my daughter's so smart, so practical. She's like, Papa, you got to make sure your insurance is current, your registration is current. There's one other thing. I was like, okay, good point. And so glad she said, because the insurance was current, but my registration wasn't, or the sticker on the car. That's what it was, the sticker on the inspection. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. So I got all that taken care of, which included me going to the Department of Motor Vehicles and saying, hey, want to make sure everything's lined up, everything's correct. Yep, all good. Cool. Okay. So then the big day comes. Oh, poor Zeta, my daughter. She's nervous, parallel parking, all of that. Um, Hawaii driver's tests are known to be especially challenging, flunk like two-thirds of people on the first time, which you'd think then that this would be the state where there's the best driving in the world. Anyway, we walk into the DMV. We're early. We walk up to the counter, and I don't know like what it is about DMV, but something in me just tends to get nervous. Like maybe I'm doing something wrong, and I don't know. And so we hand the woman behind the counter the all the paperwork. She's looking at it, very stern face. My daughter and I are like, and then she says, the name on your registration doesn't match the name on your license. Not the name, the address. So I said, well, but they told me at the DMV that it doesn't need to, and there's no point in updating the address because it doesn't matter for anything. She said, oh, well, it matters if you want a driver's test. Now, I'm not the smartest guy ever. However, I was smart enough to know arguing wasn't going to get me nowhere with her. So I said, okay. In that moment, I could feel my daughter next to me starting to melt down. She had so much hope and expectation built up for this test. And there she is. And the woman says, you can't take the test. So I'm like standing there willing her, don't lose it, stay, keep it together. She does. Until we walk outside, and by the time we get through those glass doors and start heading toward the car, first waves of tears, second rage. She started saying stuff to me about how it was my fault and how I'd messed up and how I always mess up and everything's my fault. And I'm starting to think to myself, like, have you ever had one of those moments where you know if you say that next thing, it's going to do irreparable damage? I started feeling myself in that mode of like, you ungrateful little punk. You know how much I sacrificed on that palm tree and the time in the car and the money for this. And in that moment, though, before any of that came out of my mouth, I remembered what I had spoken that morning. And I didn't remember it consciously. It wasn't like, I am unconditional love and prodigious patience. I didn't remember that line. It was in my body. And in that moment, I took a breath and I said to her, I would be so upset if I was you too. I'm sorry. And she went on. She had more to say. And she said, it's your fault. And my instinct was to say, no, it's not. Like they actually told me at DMV. Instead, what did I do? I said, yeah, you're right. Like I could have asked somebody else. I could have done something more. I didn't, and I'm sorry. And eventually her upset and her anger dissipated, and we got in the car. Well, it didn't dissipate before we got in the car. um, and we took care of it. We got it fixed. And I remember that moment as challenging, but not devastating. And it may seem, I don't know how it seems to you. It's a small example in one way, and yet it's these small moments in our life that matter most in our relationships with who we love most. Who we love most, or what we love most, what we're creating in the world. The third key then is your supreme self sacrament. And that means on a daily basis, using repetition as your ally, a practice, speaking, writing, listening, refining. The three keys to how to make affirmations, declarations, incantations really work, how to transform your identity, how to create what you want. One, your Supreme Self Manifesto. Design and define your Supreme Self by writing your manifesto for you at your best, your Supreme Self. Number two, give the mouse the mic. He's your friend. And isn't it funny? Because, like, most people don't like rats or mice. However, they're really cute, aren't they? They're cute. And there's a reason in that, I think. They've got something for us. Give the mouse the mic. Do the work to heal. Compassionate self-forgiveness in the heart and the body. And number three, your Supreme Self sacrament. You are sacred. You are beautiful. You are a perfect child of God. I love you. You deserve for your life to be a masterpiece. You are the art, and this is the art of vibrant living. See you on the next video.